And we're talking to an innovative company that can replicate any human's face, voice, and personality through an algorithmic process in a matter of minutes. Don't believe me? Well, I'm not real. I'm a Brian Sullivan digital double, created by a startup called Brask, using images and video of the real Brian to compile what's called a mask. I'm being replicated by a stand-in actor to read this monologue, and then my appearance and voice is changed using artificial intelligence. So now that I've got your attention, let's send it back to the real Brian Sullivan as we dive deeper into this revolutionary technology.
I have not seen that before that. They told me I could not look at it, just kind of wear the same thing. That was amazing. A little
intelligence conference in Geneva hosted the first ever robot press conference today. The 9 robots were recently upgraded with the latest versions of generative AI, and even their inventors said they were surprised by the sophistication of some of the answers those robots delivered today. We're next. Tyler. Next.
Phones, etc. And my theory is that AI is that next innovation that's going to change the way we do things, because what all of those innovations have in common is they help to increase productivity. And AI will not only help increase productivity, as you alluded to in that Goldman Sachs note, but will change the way businesses interact with customers.
Okay, Joe, agreed.
And will be the growth driver going forward.
And I think as that happens, we're definitely seeing people look at that as something in the past and now starting to say, okay, who are the good actors? Who are the well-regulated firms? And, how is this going to become more integrated into mainstream traditional finance infrastructure? And we're seeing good indicators of that happening as well.
Sure, but let's drill down and talk about the potential out here in Asia. Obviously, huge demand for digital dollars in this part of the world, including emerging market Asia, less developed Asia. But
and Saul, are you surprised by the results?
No, and it's worth pointing out, and you gave the numbers right before the pandemic. Those weren't great to begin with, and then they got worse. And not only did they get worse in 2022, but then they got even less good in 2023. And most people point out to, during the pandemic, a lot of students missed school. The schooling they got, it was over video conference. People were just trying to do the basics, and students lost a lot of ground.
So what do we do?
That's the big question. I would say it's the same thing that we should have been doing all along, even before the pandemic. The reason why a lot of students, especially in a subject like math, this is what we've always believed at Khan Academy, struggle is in a traditional math class. Let's say we're doing pre-algebra, you get a 70% on a test, I get a 60% on a test. Too bad, the class will move on to the next concept, usually a concept that's going to build on that gap. And that keeps happening all the way until you graduate. And what happens typically in the U.S. is a majority of students, even the ones who graduate from high school and then decide to go to college, the colleges say you're not even ready to learn algebra yet, even though the students have been taking classes like Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 and geometry. And that's because those gaps accumulated. At some point, you're not learning anymore. And so the solution really is to allow students the opportunity, the incentive to address those gaps. That's traditionally been hard. If we were talking 30 years ago, it'd be very hard for one teacher with 30 students to be able to address the unique needs of every student. And before the pandemic, your average classroom, especially a math classroom, would have 3 grade levels of ability in it. Now people are talking about 5 or 6 grade levels. So the problem has gotten even harder. We think technology has a role, even pre-generative AI, to allow students to practice at their own pace. After the pandemic, billions were spent on tutoring. There's a lot of research that one-on-one tutoring can be very powerful. Unfortunately, what we've seen is that tutoring was a little bit disjoint from what happens inside of the classroom. A lot of the students who needed it most weren't showing up for the tutoring. So we haven't really seen any gains from a lot of those resources being put behind tutoring. The reason why we're excited about generative AI is we're seeing ways that the artificial intelligence can act like a tutor. We've partnered with OpenAI. When GPT-4 was released in March, we released Conmigo, which is our version on Khan Academy. And we're already started deploying, even at the end of the last school year, into real schools. And we're seeing that it's able to close that gap where it can provide that in-the-moment tutoring that's connected to what students are actually doing for their classwork and while they are in class. So you don't have to say, hey, come to something after school.
always blown away by putting 3 words into Google to see what it comes up with. I can't imagine. Isn't that AI, Paul? Isn't that been around for 30 years? We had the creator and founder of Waze, and he said, I sold my AI company 10 years ago to Google, Waze, which was AI. So what happened? How do we cross over into this new era? It was ChatGPT, I think. It was telling it to write something, and people can't believe they might not have to do homework ever again. Is that what got us to where we are?
Yeah, when we really emphasized generative AI back last fall, right, when OpenAI really, as far as commercially, pressed pretty hard on ChatGPT, it caused a new paradigm. But you're absolutely right, Joe. We've been talking about this, and companies have been talking about embedding AI functionality into their whole product suite for years.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, every time you turn around on the mainstream media, we're hearing about AI. And we know they're using the same media forces the same way they did with the C word. ChatGPT all of a sudden came in like a storm. And we know when it came to Twitter, you saw all the bots spreading the news of ChatGPT. And if we go back to the C word with the mainstream media, we know they were spreading fear while the technology was moving in. And we saw the inflation start to rise. And people sitting at home getting free money or working from home. It was all a plan. Now we're seeing the Fed fight the inflation that they caused, destroying the small banks, which we know is going to cause job losses. And yes, the corporations are going to get more productivity because of AI. Also, because of all this data, AI is going to know what you already want. So that means that corporations have to make less items. So the corporations are going to be able to cut down probably 70% of their wasted goods. And then also, guys, we know that's going to cause hyper-deflation. And we're already seeing hyper-deflation in the works. But the Fed is just holding everything up. If the Fed wasn't holding everything up and the corporations didn't have all this greed, hyper-deflation would be running wild. But remember the NWO's goal. They want to take this real world and turn it into the virtual world. They want to tokenize everything and put it on blockchain, which is going to give the NWO the all-seeing eye. And we have the emerging markets in China leading this digital transformation. And during the C word, guys, we saw a whole generation get brainwashed in a matter of 2 years. And we know a lot of kids fell behind because they weren't able to get to school. They were at home. And we know everybody doesn't have parents. And we definitely know the government knows that. And just like on most jobs, guys, you have a trainer. Someone is teaching you the job. As we know, for about 10 to 15 years, that has been slowly moved over to software. That's the reason why on most jobs you have less and less trainers. And the same thing is going to happen with the school system. Yes, you have teachers, but then also you have a teachers union. Now they're going to be bringing in AI to teach your kids. Remember, like the lady stated, AI has been around for 60 years. So we know the machine is coming for all jobs. Guys, you know I've done several videos on all of it. Some people have to wait for it to hit their doorstep for them to wake up. And that's why it's so important to spread these videos. Educate your friends and family. Because by the time they wake up, the machines will be here. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Market is in focus, of course, ahead of today's jobs report, including how artificial intelligence could cause disruption. According to a report by Goldman Sachs, AI could expose 300 million jobs to automation, but increase global GDP by 7%. Joining us now to talk more about the impact of AI on hiring trends is Sadal Neely, Harvard Business School professor, also Jacqueline Rice Nelson, who is the co-founder and CEO of Tribe AI. And Jacqueline, why don't we start with you, just with AI, is this really going to mean that big of a problem for jobs? Is it going to destroy that many jobs?
It's, first of all, good morning, and it's great to be with you all. I think it's worth starting with the fear that people in the market are feeling, which is really substantial. We are hearing this from many different angles. And it's worth just acknowledging that there is a lot of fear. It is not unfounded. I believe that automation will be streamlining different sort of processes and functions. That means that companies of the future will need fewer people to operate. But at the same time, the barrier to entry for companies will go down significantly. And the pace of innovation is rising like nothing we've ever seen before. And so I'd expect to see companies of the future running with fewer people, but there are many more companies. And so opportunity still will abound, but it may look different than it does today.
Sadala, do you feel that unconcerned about things? Are you more concerned?
I think the concerns are legitimate with the advancement of AI, and especially generative AI. I distinguish between company-led AI implementations and individual uses of generative AI, which means that people can actually cut the time that it takes for them to do regular tasks. So we're hearing things like what might take 4 hours to produce is now taking an hour and a half. So productivity is getting boosted, which means jobs are going to get transformed.
I hope you're happy, Sadal. I really hope you're happy. I hope you're happy. Because telling all these people they can stay home, they're going to be running back, begging at the please don't put a computer in my chair. Let me come back. This is all your remote work stuff, Sadal.
Listen, Joe, I've always said that remote work, hybrid work is digital work, and that our obsession with butts and seats is misplaced. We really need to be thinking about how AI, generative AI especially, is going to transform jobs, build industries, but also displace jobs. So this physical, in-person, virtual, we're way past that, Joe. It's time to think about how do we upskill.
In truth, I was just kidding you. In truth, what you've been talking about, this is just the next extension of the transformation that you've been talking about all along that we better be ready for, or we're going to be caught flat-footed. So it actually confirms most of the stuff you've been saying, much to my chagrin. Yeah.
I truly believe it. But, Joe, AI's been around for 60 years.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold in many ways. Instead of investing in gold as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against the onerous problems of any one country, or the devaluation of your currency, whatever country you're in. Let's be clear. Bitcoin is an international asset. It's not based on any one currency. And so it can represent an asset that people can play as an alternative. I would call the foundation of BlackRock is about hope. You invest for retirement because you believe tomorrow is better than today.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. We will, and if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York. From COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.